is not a very curated and well planned out sketchbook, but instead this is where I tried to figure out how I want to use my sketchbook, what I want my daily drawing practice to look like, and what I like in terms of mediums and styles. So there is a little bit of everything inside it. It's a bit all over the place, but let's just get into it. Okay, so this is my sketchbook. I don't have any stickers or anything on the cover because I don't like it. The sketchbook is a Clairefontaine Goldline A4 size, spiral bound and white paper. It comes in either white paper or ivory paper. This is the white one, and I will leave all of the info in the description below if you want to find it. And here's my first page. Let's open it nicely. I covered this with washi tape because this is a little sticker where I have personal info, so there is my full name, mailing address and phone number in case anyone finds this sketchbook, which I recommend doing if you have a sketchbook too. Always have some kind of sticker or personal info in there, or even just a business card can be nice. And this is the first page of my sketchbook. I started this one on the 5th of May 2023. And this on the top is the very first thing that I did in there. It was a value chart, I think that's how it's called, that I did for a class at New Masters Academy. This was for an assignment for Drawing Foundations 1. And now that I think about it, I don't know if I did this thing first or these drawings, because I think these drawings, which were also assignments, come earlier in the course than this thing. So yeah, these were drawn from life, from objects that I have around, and the point of the assignment was to make a proportion frame and to draw objects inside from life. So I focused mostly on the overall proportions and symmetry, because all of these are symmetric. And it's funny to look at them now because I can see that this ellipse should be more open, and yes, small mistakes like this. I was very proud of them when I did them, and I still think they look pretty good. I don't know what this stain here is, but yeah, I stopped using graphite as much as I progressed in this sketchbook because my pages are rubbing against one another, maybe more than in a more traditionally bound sketchbook, and it's just, I don't use fixative most of the time, so it gets stained and it bothers me. And graphite isn't the most visible. Actually, I hope you can see my drawings well enough here. And one thing I did along this sketchbook on almost every page was taking notes. So this is in French. I have the date. I have a little bit of context, so it's an observational drawing with measurements done from nature, and this was for a New Masters Academy class. Here, this is, maybe you can recognize him, it's Piglet. It's a Piglet plush that I have at home, and I used it as my last reference for this assignment. I had to make 4 objects. Anyway, this is the same exercise as the page before. This was another exercise for New Masters Academy. This was to draw basic forms in perspective. I think you can... Oh, actually it's in English, so yeah. I took notes in English for this one. I think it was maybe the first time that I did this exercise. I had to do it many times after, and it's not all in this sketchbook because I was using a larger paper. But it may have been the first time that I did it as an assignment. This was also an assignment for drawing foundations. It was again to draw simple objects from life, but this time the point of the assignment wasn't to use proportions and a proportion frame, but rather to construct these objects in perspective. And I have one of them here, this little brush. Well, it's not a little brush, it's not a small thing, but yeah, it's this one. You can see that the handle is a bit smaller on mine than it is on the real one, but other than that, and even despite of that, I really like this drawing. It's my favorite of all of them, and I really like this page. It was extremely satisfying to do this exercise, and I left this assignment very proud of myself because I like the way they look. And now it's again a bit stained. Maybe I used some fixative on this page because it's not too awful on this one, but it's not as it looked like when I finished it. This is the last part of the same assignment. I managed not to finish this one, and the person who was doing my feedback didn't notice that I was missing one object for the rendering, but yeah, it's because I didn't like this one as much. I always struggle with pyramids, and here I think the top isn't aligned with the bottom the way it should be, and I had been erasing and redrawing it multiple times without it working, so I gave up at some point. Now I think I could fix it, but I don't want to. And again, some notes, what the exercise was about, what class I was taking, and the date. And I also noted that it was à main levée means without a ruler, it means freehand. This is a double page of exercises for another class at New Masters Academy. Oh, I have notes in French here and in English here, it's interesting. This was done in English because it was an assignment and I was supposed to submit it. I submitted it, so I wanted the person correcting me to be able to read it, but at the time I would take most of my notes in French. So this was an exercise where I had to find a study and a painting and compare the two. So this is a very famous painting from John William Waterhouse, and here's the study. These are very similar, so that's what I based most of my commentary on. And this is a completely different exercise where I had to find an old artwork of mine. So this is something that I did in 2016. It was a watercolor, it's A3 in size, the original, and this is just a small print of the scanned version that I sticked here to have the reference, and I also found the original photo reference that I used back in the day, and I tried to make another version, which I'm not really happy about. I think it's an interesting progress between this I did long ago and this version. I can see more of the form of her head, it's better in this. I was trying to use the same colors that I did here, and I think it was a poor choice here, and it was still a poor choice in 2023, so I'm not very happy about this as a drawing, but anyway. Other exercises. This was for another class, I think. I wrote that it was for drawing fundamentals week 2, which seems weird. Or I think maybe what happens here is that it's the 5th object of this exercise. I found it weird that there is only 4 here. I think I did them when I first took the class, but I wasn't submitting my assignments back then, and then I decided to submit later in the month of May. So this is when I completed my original work with this one. So this was also drawn from life, and this is my reference. It was also about proportions rather than construction, although I was trying to apply some construction to it. I think this bottom ellipse is still too narrow. And yeah, my proportions aren't working here. It's a bit taller than it is in real life, but I still like this drawing, and I'm happy to look at it now. I just love this little cap. Let's have it here. Very basic drawing exercise. If you ever took any kind of drawing class, you have been shown the sphere and the different lights. It's interesting, I was taking notes in English because I think I made this drawing, this chart from a class I was taking in English, but I wanted to know how things are named in French. This page, I like this one. It was on the 20th of May. It was an exercise in 3 steps. First one was to draw an animal from imagination, then from reference, and then without photo reference to draw the same animal in a different pose. So I tried to make a nice layout and a nice page out of it. I just added the numbers to have fun and to make something that I'm happy about, and I really like this page. I especially like the line work. It's not to send myself flowers or anything. More often than not, I hate everything I do, so when I say that I like something, it's not to brag, it's very exceptional for me, but I really like the line work on this little bat. And I definitely used some fixative on these pages because there would be graphite all over the place otherwise. A double page of exercises. I was going through Drawing Foundation 1 and I was submitting all of my assignments. So this was about light and shadow on form. I can show it to you correctly if you want, but it's a very basic exercise. You can see different forms and the light direction, and it was done from imagination. I wrote it here. It's very, very important, I think, to have some context on your sketchbooks about your sketches or drawings if you want to keep it as a way to record your progress and your thought process. I'm very glad that I added this because I wouldn't remember otherwise, and it's really what gives my sketchbook its value for me. It doesn't have a lot of value maybe for anyone else, but it's what makes it interesting for me. So this was a week and an assignment that was about light on form, and the next one that I did 2 days later was about light on form but with texture. And I didn't write it, but this was again done from imagination, I think. I had to invent textures. This is the one I prefer. This is more experimental, and these two were done with a frottage technique. So I used a coin here, and this I don't remember what I used. It's interesting. I know that I rubbed over something, but I don't remember what it was actually. Yeah, anyway. So this was the final assignment for my first class at New Masters Academy. It was to put together a still life, so you can recognize my favorite little teacup here. This is my teapot, books I have around. This is a tiny little wardrobe. It's meant to be a jewelry box and I love the way it looks, so I put all of this together and I had to test out different lighting situations on it, different ways to arrange things and make a lot of thumbnails. I think I had to make maybe 30 or 40 in total, but I just taped some of my favorites here to keep a record of the process. I have the other ones somewhere, but I'm not sure I will keep them ultimately. I just kept my favorite ones. And this is the lighting situation I ended up going with, but I chose a different framing. I did a vertical one for this one, which is my favorite. I very often go for a vertical composition. It's what I prefer. This one looked nice too. Anyway, so this is a graphite drawing. I think I spent 6 hours on it. It was a bit I hope you can see it nicely without too much of a reflection. I can't see because there is the clamp over this part of my screen, but I hope you can see it correctly. Yeah, it took a lot of time because it's graphite and I wanted to have a lot of contrast, and my dark values are very, very dark. So I had really to use my darkest pencil to its fullest capacity, and it took a lot of time. I still tried to have some nuance and some details suggested even in the darkest shadows, and I was very proud of it when I finished it, and it's nice to look back on it because I'm not as proud as I was, and I can see things to correct, but I'm still proud of it as a piece that was part of my development, if that makes sense. Okay, this is when I started to use only one page when I was using graphite. This one was drawn from life. It was on the 1st of June. I noted also that I took 2 hours to make it. This is a view of my favorite coffee shop. I was having breakfast with my husband there, and perspective isn't working. I think my values aren't working either because I was mostly focused on the effect of light and shadow, and I didn't take into account local value as much as I should have, but it was still my best effort. And also, when I started drawing, there were people here sitting and taking their breakfast, and I didn't want to draw them, so that's also why we stayed quite a long time, and in the end they left and I could draw this little corner without them more easily. But I realized that having people and trying to figure out how things were working behind them, ignoring them, maybe made my perspective not working so well. It's not a correct sentence, but anyway. So yeah, I love it because it's just a place I love, so I'm glad I made this. It was for an assignment. I had to draw a place from life, so I did it. It's not my usual kind of drawing to this day, and very, very much out of my comfort zone. But why I like this one also is because this little coffee shop, my favorite coffee shop of all times, recently purchased the location that is behind this wall. So right now they have removed this wall and they're expanding, so it's a nice recording of how the coffee shop used to look. Anyway, it's Le Kitchen in Lyon 7. If you ever come to Lyon, I highly recommend this one, and they speak English without any problem. This was another assignment for the same lesson. I had to draw an object from life, and this is one of my favorite shoes. And the main mistake here is that this section, the toe section of my boot, should be a lot longer. Like, it should end up maybe around there. As it is, it looks like a doll shoe. It's so stupid, but I put a lot of effort in this one, and I especially like the line work. I had just taken a lesson, I think, that was about line quality and how to translate depth and other information through line, and I really tried to apply it, and this is where I realized how much I love it, how much I love this way of expressing myself through line and expressing a subject. So yeah, it's something I really like about this one, and it's something that I want to keep in the way I draw because I love it more than value, actually, more than form, just line. I love it. And this is the final part of this assignment that was about drawing from life. I had to draw a person, and this is my little brother sitting on the couch in his usual weird way, and I think he's watching a video on his iPad. Yeah, I like this one. I was also trying to apply line quality to it, and it's not too bad, I think. I can recognize him more in the attitude than in the face, because I can't see much of his face right now. That I usually can't see much of his face behind all the hair and the glasses and whatever. So June 11th. Then I hated this page when I did it, and I had to refrain myself from ripping it off. Wow, we're already 20 minutes in and I'm just getting started. These were master studies done in ink. I think the main purpose of this page was that I had just received this fountain pen and another one, this one. So this is a Pilot fountain pen. I think it's a Custom 72, and it has somewhat flexible nib. It's soft, fine, and this is a very classic Kaweco Sport, which has a very hard nib, and I really wanted to draw in ink and to enjoy drawing in ink, so I was familiarizing myself with ink and with my fountain pen with this one. I'm pretty sure this one was done with this fountain pen because there is some line variation, and this one must have been done with my Kaweco because all of the lines look pretty much the same. I was very unhappy about it when I did it, and I'm not sure drawing with ink works for me because I really enjoy line quality and getting some line variation with graphite, and the process of looking for my lines and erasing and going over them to get this kind of effect is more enjoyable for me than the immediacy of ink. So I'm not sure I enjoy drawing with ink, but at the time this is what I was experimenting with and trying to figure out a way that would work for me. So yeah, that's what I did here. Okay, I won't talk about this page, it's just a page of scribbles that I did probably a bit later. I don't add dates to those, but this is another ink experiment. It's this little guy that I knitted that I love. And I tried different styles of hatching, of contour, and of coloring with it. It's fountain pen ink. It was my dark brown ink. I don't think it's black. And I was also using a little bit of white with the Uniball gel pen, which I don't really enjoy. It's too thick for me, and yeah, I don't really like using it. I'd rather use a white polychromos than this one, but I was figuring things out. And yeah, it was just an experiment. I drew this guy in front of a mirror that has two sides, so I didn't turn it around. It's the same pose, if that makes sense for a toy. But I had 3 different angles at the same time, and it's an interesting setting to draw an object from life, I think. Yeah, I was very unhappy about it. I think here the face looks very messy. The third one is actually the one I prefer, but it's not great. And I don't draw with my fountain pen regularly right now because I don't know, I haven't found a way to make ink work for me. It's too harsh, it's too... I don't know, it doesn't work yet. I still hope I can find a way later. Okay, I'm going to remove all of this. So this is another experiment that I did trying to figure out how to use my fountain pen. This is my Pilot fountain pen. I didn't write it out, but I remember. And I tried doing a master study because it's a nice way to explore line work and hatching, and to really see how someone used it without having to figure out a drawing. And yeah, I think of a master study as a way to isolate a very specific skill, and the skill I was isolating with this one was hatching with ink. But the original, it's from Jean-Jacques Granville. The original isn't a pen and ink drawing, it's an engraving, so sometimes it's hard to tell apart and I can't. But this was close enough, I thought, for me to try to emulate it in ink, and I tried my best, but now, as you can see, I gave up before the end. It was traced over a printed version of the illustration that I found on Pinterest, and now that I look at it, I think my problem is that I'm very likely working in a much smaller size than the original, so I can't possibly get the same kind of subtlety and detail and delicateness in the hatching. Looking at it without the reference, it looks pretty good. I'm quite happy about it, I like it, but when I had the reference on this side, I was so unhappy about it that I gave it up. So yeah, that's why it's unfinished, and also because it had served its purpose for me without finishing it. Very different. This was done with watercolor. This little thing was done with ink. It's the same ink that I'm using here. It was supposed to be water resistant, but it ended up being somewhat soluble. So yeah, I tried kind of softening ink with a little bit of water. I was using sorry, I was using a water brush like this over ink and trying to figure out again a way of drawing with a fountain pen that would work for me, and I'm not a fan of this. Not that it's bad, I just don't enjoy the process and don't especially enjoy the result. So this was done on July for the first week of a class that I didn't finish. It was a class about sketchbooking from life, and the first week had some experiments like a value chart. Here I was just trying out different colors, a basic sphere, and skulls. It's not from life, it was from a photo reference, and I tried having some splatters on it because it's kind of the style the instructor had in her own sketchbook, and some things she enjoyed, and I think I don't. So I never did this again, but it's nice to try things out to see whether you like them. These are not done the same way. I think for the first one I had a pencil underdrawing and tried to express form with my watercolor. Not very well. It's not watercolor paper, so it's extremely difficult to get some smooth transitions and gradients and watercolor effects on a paper that isn't meant for it. If you're struggling with watercolor, this may be why. For me it's very different to use a true heavy cotton watercolor paper, which this is not. But I can still sketch in watercolor, and I've done other stuff that you will see later. And this one was done without a pencil underdrawing. I was using a ballpoint pen, which is a nice in-between graphite and ink, whether fountain pen or dip pen or even fine liner pen ink. Yeah, the ballpoint has something a lot softer, and you can make very almost invisible sketchy lines and go over them, but you can't erase. So yeah, I was experimenting with the ballpoint, and I like the idea of a ballpoint, but again, not really working for me. And then I enhanced the form and the background with some watercolor. So here you can see that it's just a sketchy sketchbook page, nothing interesting here. This is a drawing done on July. Again, this was from a photo reference, and yeah, so this is my drawing. And I had a graphite underdrawing, and then I tried to convey form with hatching with my fountain pen. The face isn't working, the hair isn't working, there are a lot of mistakes in the body, and I didn't work the drapery very well, but I still like this drawing, and of all I did with my fountain pen, it's the one that I like the most. I don't know, I just especially like this part of her lower legs. I'm going to try to move a little bit faster because otherwise it's going to last for hours. This is what I was talking about graphite transferring to other pages, and sometimes I don't mind, sometimes it's a bit more annoying. It's annoying in this case because I quite like these drawings. These were done outside of any course, just for myself, and these are done from photo references using a polychromos pencil. These were done for a class. This was an assignment for Drawing Foundations 2, done at the end of August, and these are just some value studies of landscapes done in graphite, so that's why. So yeah, then I stopped using this page because I was using graphite so heavily that I was sure it would transfer, but I'm pretty sure there is some fixative on this page because this would make a mess otherwise. Again, the end of August, this was for a class, and this is the other assignment for the same week of the same class. I had to draw a lot of spheres for New Masters Academy, so these are just some of them. Again, some spheres. This was another assignment. I wasn't copying these spheres, I was trying to figure out the keys of references and artworks and using the same keys in my sphere diagrams. Then I had to make some composition studies for a landscape, so I just pasted my reference here, and this was for an assignment. More landscapes, it was all about landscapes in this class at the time. So yeah, again, some value studies and matrices. This is each time for the same image. This is more of a matrix. I'm trying to have only 3 values, and this is a more elaborate study, but still trying to respect this. And same thing here. So it was at the beginning of September. Then I tried doing some live drawing from videos. So this was from a live drawing session video. It wasn't for a class, just for myself. So I was trying to respect the timing, and it was difficult. So they are not finished. Wait, I'm going backwards here. Another attempt. Here, this isn't for a class either. This was just me trying to use my sketchbook and drawing a little still life while using what I had learned about line quality. So I really like the line quality of this. I wish I had drawn it larger. I remember that I started over a couple times for my flower bouquet to fit, and yeah, I like it. Some more drawings from a figure drawing session. These are timed, so for each one, I think here the hashtag 28 Scarlet means it's the reference of the video if I want to find it again, in case I want to find my references again. And it was for Friday figure drawing, which is an event we had on the Discord for New Masters Academy. And I also took note of the time I spent on it, which is very important, because of course you can't expect to have the same quality with a 30 seconds drawing as you do with a 10 minutes one. So when I'm doing live drawing, even if it's not in person, I always try to note how much time I spent on a drawing. This is the last one of this session. These are some Fialetti eyes, if you're not familiar with those. Odoardo Fialetti was an Italian master, and he was the author of what is considered the first drawing manual, and this manual consists of plates that students were meant to reproduce. So it's still a very interesting exercise to this day, because the plates look very simple, but they have amazing subtlety in the line work and in the hatching. So yeah, I was copying them. I added a little star when I was using another drawing in graphite, which I erased afterwards. So these were done directly in ink, and then I gave up on doing it directly with ink, because I realized that for real, I won't be drawing directly in ink. I would use, if I was just drawing for myself, I would be making an under drawing. So I thought, okay, whatever, I'm just going to make an under drawing, and it's still a valid exercise this way. So I could focus more on the hatching, and yeah, that's how I did it. And I did quite a few, so I have multiple dates on this page, because okay, so this was probably without an underdrawing, this was with an underdrawing, and I remember that all of the other eyes here were done with an underdrawing. And yeah, multiple dates, because I didn't do this page in one day. There is about 15 minutes in each of those, and well, it's technically doable in a day, but it's so much focus and so much effort each time that I can't do it all in a day. I was building drawing endurance at the time, but I still can't do this all in one day. Here I was just trying things out and trying to use my sketchbook kind of for the sake of it. So it wasn't an assignment, but I was trying to reproduce some of the assignments that I had in the past. Just a simple page of random things. This is an assignment, and this was, oh, it's for the second week. So this was for the second lesson of a class that I really enjoyed at the end of September. This was for constructive head drawing with Steve Houston. So yeah, just an assignment, same week, same assignment. I'm just showing them to you quickly. These are head construction studies from photo references. And I was using a polychromos pencil with this, which I really enjoy. I think I can get a larger value range than I can with graphite, with just one single graphite pencil, and it doesn't transfer, and actually I like having a little bit of color, so I was just having fun here and using whatever color I felt like using, and yeah, I think it looks really good, so I really enjoy working with the polychromos. I can't erase as much as I can with a pencil, with a graphite pencil, but I don't mind, and I can get the same softness and work my lines in the same way that I told you that I enjoy. Okay, so this is well, it's not personal, but it's not my content. I was copying it from an online source, and these were just some studies, but I was trying to figure out a way to use my polychromos more because I was enjoying them so much for line drawings. So I tried stuff, and I think none of it is working, but it's fine. This is just a copy of something that I found absolutely interesting, very interesting, and I wanted to keep it, so I made a copy in my sketchbook. This is a messy page. This is some research for a character design class that I started taking and that I gave up later on. I started trying things out for a character, and then I kept going on Procreate, so there isn't much here. And these are just some graphite experiments that I did here because I had it on my desk at the time, but yeah, it's whatever. And this is where it gets very experimental. These pages were done for Master Mash Challenge. It's again something that we had going on in the New Masters Academy Discord for the month of October. And yeah, so there were daily prompts. This one was geometric simplicity. This one was about combining shapes, and I used this as an opportunity to do two things. The first one was to experiment with other mediums than graphite. So I've been using a lot my polychromos pencils, my water-soluble pencils and crayons. And the second thing that I was trying to do is that I had an assignment, a big assignment coming up in October that was to make an autumnal still life. I've shown it in this channel, so I will link the video for this. I had access to a set of references, so I used Master Mash Challenge also as a way to make very different studies of my reference photo set. So these are all studies of the same photo references, and well, not the actual same picture, but the same album. It was an interesting time and interesting experiments. I was trying to use water-soluble pencils over polychromos, under polychromos, to use colors in very different ways, and most of it didn't work. But I learned a lot, and learning about what doesn't work is sometimes extremely important. This is another study of the same album, and I don't know, this is a small note in French. It says, do not confuse the border of the ground plane for the horizon line. Because this is what I did here, and this is what makes my perspective completely off. I don't know why I got confused. I hadn't practiced perspective in a while, so yeah, I made this mistake, and it's such a simple mistake, so I took a note to not make it again. This was for Master Mash Challenge, and I was extremely unhappy about it when I finished it, but now I quite like it. This is another one when I did something very weird with color. I was using a mix of polychromos to have an underdrawing that wouldn't be water soluble, but still was meant to stay visible when I would add color and form and shadow. And I was using water-soluble pencils. This is another Master Mash Challenge prompt. It was about negative shapes, so it was another study from the photo that I ended up using as my reference for my final assignment. This is a page of research for another challenge I wanted to take, and you may have seen me painting it, and it didn't go well and I gave it up, but this is my initial research and thought process about what was meant to be a Halloween costume illustration. Here, these are some box torsos. It was an exercise for kind of class I was taking. I started doing those here, but I ended up using mostly Procreate, so there are not many pages of this. Another Master Mash challenge. I went very experimental with this one, and these are done from photo references, so obviously the references don't look the same at all. It's an actual person with human proportions and everything. I quite like this one. I was just really experimenting, and I added this. It's Master Mash. Other torsos. These are some studies for my assignment of the autumnal still life. So here I did kind of the same thing as I had done very early on here. So I did some value studies on sticky notes, and I pasted them on this page to keep them, to have them for later on, because it's an interesting record of my process. Then, well, I tried different things. Then I made this more elaborate sketch of the composition I wanted to use, so it's this one. I made my sketch. I photographed this sketch and I made this value study on Procreate, and then I printed it on sticky paper to have it here. More torsos. This is kind of a note that I took from my constructive head drawing class I was taking at the time. This is an assignment for the same class, again using my polychromos pencils, and I think it's my favorite medium that I used in this sketchbook. I really like this page. For the eyes, this was a week about eyes. For the eyes, I really stuck with the assignments guidelines, and I didn't overdo it. I didn't try to have really good, good to me. I didn't give too much effort in line quality, and I didn't go over what was expected. I still had fun doing them, but here, this was the week after. It was done 5 days after. This was on October the 19th, and this was on the 24th. Here, I shifted the way I approached. Oh, this is wrong. I approached the assignment, and I allowed myself to really try to make it look nice and enjoy it, basically. So I took my time a little bit more, not too much, because the assignment is about being quick to some extent, but I took my time, sometimes a little more, and tried to enjoy it, tried to make it look nice with a good line quality, with a little more light and shadow and cross-hatching, and I really enjoyed doing those. Again, same assignment, it was a week about noses. Then I had the week about mouth, and I really like this page as well. It wasn't, I got some feedback that wasn't positive about the fact that I was maybe adding too much detail. I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to do with the assignment, but I didn't care because I was enjoying it, and it's rare enough for me that when I do enjoy something, I try to keep it, I try to enjoy it as much as possible. So yeah, it's for the ears that I had this feedback. Oh, sorry. So another page of mouth. And there are some construction mistakes in here that I should keep working on, but anyway. And this was the final week of this course that was about ears, and I love this page. There are some mistakes again, but I still really enjoyed this approach of drawing and this approach of how to sketch and still try to make it pretty and have a nice line quality and a little bit of shadow, but not so much. It's more about the line, I think. This is my last page of ears. Done at the start of November. Here I was doing kind of the same thing as I did, on this page. Just trying to use my sketchbook, trying to do things. I didn't even date these two. I know these were done a lot, well, earlier than this, and I only dated this. It was my first Christmas card idea, and you have seen this double page. We are coming near the end of this video. This is a double page of me trying to find an idea for a Christmas card that I would make as a lino cut. I will leave a link to the video where I talk you through this process if you're interested, if you want to check it out. This is part of the same process, and this is the end of this sketchbook. I still have some pages left. I hope you found this video interesting. Please remember to leave a like, and if you want, say hi in the comments before you leave. It's extremely motivating for me to read all of your comments, and this video was inspired by one of them, so don't hesitate, even if it's just to say hi. I love reading you. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.